mechanical stimulus. The facial continuum constantly transmits and receives the mechanometabolic information function of the entire body. Visceral fascia extends from the cranial base till the pelvic basin, which lines the body cavities, is far the most complex of all the main layers of fascia. To further explore this topic, let us listen to the webinar. I am extremely delighted to introduce the resource faculty of today's webinar, Dr. Prem Venkatesan, Associate Professor, Senior Scale and Head of the Department, Manipal College of Health Professions, Department of Physiotherapy, Mahe, Manipal Hospital, Bangalore. Dr. Prem has completed PhD from Manipal University in 2011, currently has 30 publications to his credit, and research grant from DST and worth 80 lakhs. Let us hear from the expert, Dr. Prem.
Thanks, Dr. for introduction. Also would like to thank Society of Indian Physiotherapists for this opportunity. So this is a brief introduction about visceral manipulation, and also I'll reports or patients evaluation reports, which I'll be sharing along with this. So that's the plan for this session. So I'll be sharing the slide. Is my slide visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So it's an introduction to visceral manipulation. Start with a small case history. This is a male patient, 19-year-old, occupation, an engineering student. An engineering student, and he has a chief complaint of pain over the left chest for past 2 months. And you can see the pain location. And there is no history of trauma. Back. The pain was gradual in onset. And currently the VAS, when he came, was 8 out of 10. And he already met a cardiologist. So they ruled out. And also he has met an orthopedician, and they couldn't find anything significant. They've taken chest X-ray. They couldn't find anything significant, and they referred to physio. So what do you think about? Is the patient to be treated by physio? Who all think yes or no? You can just put it in the chat box. Do you think no, this is a patient, no, can we treat as a physio? Can I just put yes or no? Yeah, so there are many yes in. If yes, what could be the possible source of pain? What do you think could be the possible source of pain? You can just put it in the chat box. What could be the possible source of pain? Some response in the chat box. Yeah, good. Rib dysfunction, pectoral muscles, yes, possible. Thoracic spine, yeah, possible. Okay, so just keep this case, yes, intercostal muscle. So just keep this case in mind. So we'll come back to the case at the end of the presentation. Thanks for your response. Why visceral? We've got so many systems in the body, right? Musculoskeletal, neurological, endocrine system. No, you've got so many systems. Why visceral? Okay, we will see that. And movement system, which is our bread and butter, which is what we do every day movement assessment. That's our core area. And we'll see what are the components of movement system, and then where does we will see that. And also we'll see various cases whom I have treated. So case histories we'll see. And what is the possible mechanism of action? So why visceral out of all the systems? So Hippocrates 2000 years back, he said that all diseases begins in the gut. So that's what is the and also if you see in Ayurveda, most of the time they will say like all the problem starts with the intestine, and that's why they look for it. So if you see traditionally and culturally, you got so many historical view where gut is the source of all the problems. Also, if you look, right, you want to get a cerebrovascular stroke. What is the common age which we start? Can I get some response? Stroke, what age we start? Yeah. And cardiac, some response? So most often 40s, and nowadays because of the stress, you get even in 40s and 30s. Same way in cardiac. And if you look back, musculoskeletal system, maybe at the much more like late 20s and 20s. Closely, most often as we reach 20, right? Most of the people will have some or other kind of gastric issues, some kind of issues which is related to the lifestyle, the food intake. Don't bother. We just carry on with our life. We don't have time to look into it. And also the stresses which we go through in our everyday kind of life, which starts from your schooling days, and as we go to college and job, this is like which happens, and it is a silent kind of problem which exists in our gastric system, which reflects the thoughts of Hippocrates and in Ayurveda. Okay, the visceral manipulation word was coined by Dr. Jean Perry Barrel, is an osteopath, physician, and also is a physiotherapist. So initially he was a physiotherapist, then he did his osteopathy. So he plans, and the story goes like he was treating back pain patients, and when he treated one patient, and then he met the patient after 3 months, and the patient said, "No, I'm feeling better." The Jane Perry was happy, but the patient said, "It's not because of you." Then he says, "Why? What happened?" Patient said, "No, no. So I went to Alps Mountain. There are tribal people there. They did something on my abdomen, and I felt." So that's the feedback the patient gave. Then Jean Perry thought that this must be some chance. By chance, something has happened. Something they did. Something patient got better. But what happened in the next 3-4 months of responses whom the ES treated, and after that 3-4 patients have gone there and they got better. So then he got curious why this is happening. Then he went to the anatomy books, and he starts looking what are the connects and the musculoskeletal system, what are the possible kind of interrelationships existing, and that's how he started developing this method, which is now quite widely taught and practiced. So visceral manipulation. So why visceral? In order for a person to be completely healthy, all of the visceral system must have proper motion. Emotion in our lives make a great impact on our body's function. Jane Perry believes our organs are extremely receptive to our emotions and feelings. Emotional reactions can range from simple heartburn, vomiting, feeling faint, actually fainting, ulcers, and more serious diseases. Recurring emotional stress can exhaust an organ and restrict its movement. So this is according to Jane Perry Barrel. 90% of musculoskeletal problems have a visceral component. Orthopedic manual skills and specific exercise programs remain integral to the treatment of a client. It's not like we throw out everything. It becomes part of our practice, part of our day-to-day assessment and management. As physical therapists, we have been trained to deal with multiple systems at once, and we have an extensive background in the structures of the spine and extremities, increasing the importance of articulation for movement. However, if you come to the viscera, except what we read in our Guyton, in our second semester or physiology or anatomy, mainly in physiology, after that, most of we don't have it in syllabus. Okay, that's a fact, and we don't have any clue about it, except we study something in general medicine and general surgery for the general conditions. Apart from that, we really don't have no syllabus. Okay, so coming to the movement system. So you want to have a good movement, a shoulder movement or a knee or a lumbar. So what are the systems which should work optimally to get a good ideal movement? So those joints, articular, muscles, neural, fascia, visceral, central nervous system, and your psychosocial factors. So you need to have all the systems working optimally to get a good quantity and quality of movement. Okay, without you have a problem in any of these systems, you get a problem, then you need to address accordingly. So what is the relationship between our motion system? That's known as viscerosomatic. So viscera, it's the visceral organs. Somatic is your muscle, bone, joint. So that becomes your somatic. So what is the relationship between the internal organs and your motion system? So it has a reciprocal relationship between your organs and the muscles. Dysfunction in one system is reflected as a disorder in the second system. So how does this happen? So you got interneurons where you got a problem in the muscles and the joint. Through the interneurons, it can reflect as if it is originating from the organs, stomach or intestine. Same your problem. Okay, it's there for a long time or some time. So it can have a referral pain. Through this, you can have a spasm on your muscles. Okay, that might be in thoracic spine or in lumbar spine or sacroiliac. Some gynecological issues there. Then you get a referred pain, which will happen in the SI joint or muscles around the lumbar and the SI joint. So this interrelationship exists. So if we understand, if the source is going to be purely visceral, then that need to be treated. If the source is going to be somatic, that purely it's a muscle, bone, and joint, yes, we are good at it. We know our articular assessment, myofascial assessment, neural assessment, and we do justice to the patient. So if it's the origin is going to be in muscle, so that's called as viscerosomatic. If the origin of the problem is somatic, that means you got a problem with a muscle, a psoas or a kind of quadratus lumborum, and then because of this, the organs affected, then it's called as somatovisceral. So that's a kind of understanding we can derive from this. So there are literature reviews or narrative reviews. There are some articles where these relationships are being discussed, or you can see the literature, that is myofascial and visceral pain. A person has got visceral problem for a long time, that they can present with myofascia. Yes, patient gets better, but if the source is going to be viscera, your treatment is going to be still incomplete. So you can call a problem as somatic, which is bone, joint, muscle, which we know well. That means organ is at fault, and you need to address that. And viscerosomatic, that's where a problem in the viscera gets reflected in somatic. If it started with somatic and then it looks like a visceral thing, then it is somatovisceral. Most often you treat somatic, that visceral symptoms also will get better. So there are there are visceral pain patterns which can present. If you have a problem with, can have a pain or tenderness at thoracic spine T4 to T7. If you have a problem with liver and gallbladder, still you can have a thoracic spine tenderness from T6 to T9. If you have a problem with kidney, spine tenderness at T10 to L2, and gynecological organs, it's quite extensive. L2 to S1, pelvic floor and SI joint, you can have a referred pain or you can have a tenderness over these regions. And if you see the intestine, if you see the gastrointestinal system, you can see here liver, stomach, you got a small intestine, large intestine. You can see it has got a peritoneum, visceral peritoneum, and parietal peritoneum, all a structure. It's all continuous, and you can see, right, all the peritoneum, the parietal peritoneum, just lying on the lumbar spine like a bed. So it's all interlinked, and you can see anatomical lumbar spine. So that's how it you can see that. And also you got the fascia which wraps around the intestines, okay, as a gift packet, and it folds, and it's a problem in one area can have a reflection on the other part of the area. So it's all connected and attached. So what is visceral manipulation? The word manipulation looks like very kind of high. Not true. It's not true. It's a gentle, non-aggressive form of manual therapy that specifically targets the internal organs based on how they articulate, how we talk about biomechanics, extension, side bending, rotations. We talk about same way. Here also they talk about each organ has got flexion, extension, side bending, and rotation. Their support structures, their ligamentous structures. So it's connecting the structure to the above and structure to the sides, structures below. So these structures, they talk about it. And if these are going to be quite severe, it can affect their physiological functions and dysfunctions, which you can see in the patient. So what are the organs it includes? It includes everything: liver, stomach, duodenum, gallbladder, small intestine, large intestine. Okay, all your pelvic organs, it involves everything. So just a small MCQ, you can just answer in the chat. Patient with right shoulder pain, which visceral structure can refer pain? A, stomach, B, liver, C, heart, D, large intestine. Can I have some response? That right shoulder pain, which visceral structure can refer pain? Yeah, good. Thanks for the response. Liver, yeah, good. Thanks for the response. So definitely it's on the right side. So it could be a possible visceral structure could be liver. Thanks for the response. So breathing and visceral. So you can see this is a radiographic image of how the this is a diaphragm which moves. That's your lung, and every time when you breathe, okay, it has a vertical movement, and each time it moves, it takes whole gastrointestinal system also above and below. It moves upward. So this is known as mobility of the. This is known as mobility of the organs. So the visceral structures has got two movements. One they call it as motility, other is mobility. Motility is the structure or the organ itself has the innate ability to move. That's how your what you say, stomach moves, your intestines, the food movement. That's your innate movement, and they move. And the other movement is known as mobility, which happens because of these breathing, because of the heartbeat, because of the all these things again causes the movement of the organs. Okay, so based on this, they look which organ, what movement is affected, and then which ligament, which side it is affected, and accordingly the treatment is directed to the and the patient gets better. So that's a kind of what I can say as a overall assessment what is done, just to give you an idea about it. And if you see the cadaveric anatomy, just to give an idea, so that's your heart, that's your liver, that's your gallbladder. Just to give an idea, vena cava. That's your stomach. That's your pancreas. Whole your small intestine, which is 6 meters in length. So you can see like no what we like no assess as a musculoskeletal assessment. That's your psoas major, that's your quadratus lumborum. So all these structures are just like you got the nerves, your no lumbar plexus, sacral plexus, lumbar plexus, which what is it enters and pierces through the psoas major and comes, and all these organs are sitting right above it. This area, patient tells, okay, it's not just the muscles. You need to think about the intestines. You need to think about the ascending colon, which is located in the same area, cecum. All these locations are present in the area. So unless and until we understand whether if it's a possible, no, that could be the possible source of pain. Just want to no highlight that no point. So this is again a video about what is the relationship between your visceral attachment and to the back. Is it really connected or they just hang around? So this is a kind of fresh cadaver. That's your small intestine. That's your peritoneum and the connections. So it's like a cauliflower and it has got these attachments to the lumbar spine. And you can see when the person moves the intestine, what happens. You can see when he moves the intestine, you can see the whole spine, whole body moving. So you can't say that intestines are back when you do an assessment. That's what happens when the patient has got some problem in the front or something. Most of us now we always look the source at the back. Same thing when they go to orthopedician. Again, everybody looks at MRI, and everybody try to look for the nerve. But if the root or if the cause is something is happening in the front, usually we say no, that's not important. Okay, but you can see there's clearly a anatomical connection which exists, and you move the intestine, you can see the lumbar spine and no moving. Okay, just a small MCQ. What is the length of? Can I get some response in the chat? Yeah, just now we discussed. Yeah, it is 6 meters, right? Thanks for the response. So I just want to share some of the case histories whom I have treated. This is a 51 years. Patient came with a chief complaint of pain at right lower thoracic region and rib cage over laterally, and it is present for last 3 weeks. That's a body chart. That's a pain location. It was most often posterolateral location of pain. Location was posterolateral rib cage. Onset was gradual. Location right thoracic region and rib cage. Type dull aching type of pain. Intermittent in nature, 3 weeks, and it gets aggravated by forward bending and sitting, and it gets relieved by supine position, and it has got a pain instability is moderate. So this patient most often had a problem with liver. So that's a surface anatomy of the liver based on the assessment. Okay, it got some issues on the side bending, treated the patient accordingly. And the liver has got extensive attachment. Just to give an idea, it has got a coronary ligament at the top, which gets attached to diaphragm, and it has got right triangular, left triangular ligament, which against diaphragm, and they got a falciform ligament, which is the continuation of coronary ligament, goes all the way, gets attached to anterior abdominal wall. Not only that, it goes all the way to the urinary bladder. Okay, from that inferiorly, it has got attachment to the duodenum, attachment to the stomach, and also to the renal, and also to the colon through hepatic flexure. So these are the attachments. So we find out where there are based on the assessment, and we release that direction or a direction opposite to it. That's how the patient gets better with the mobilization. So I think we treated the patient and the pain weekly once, and the pain was zero, and all the movements she got back, and she got relieved with no pain. So this other patient is a male, 45 years, complaint of pain in right lower abdomen for past 1 week. And occupation is a physician, which involves long time sitting and consulting and also operating. So mainly long duration in sitting position. So that's a pain location in the body chart, right lower abdomen. So onset gradually in nature, right iliac region. Type of pain intermittent in nature, gets aggravated by sitting, and also when he moves from sit to stand, and it gets relieved. He walks some 8 to 10 steps, the pain gets relieved. And the VAS is around 6 out of 10, mild. So he didn't have any systemic symptoms like nausea, vomiting, weight loss, no past surgical history, personal history, nothing significant, medical history, not significant. And being a physician, he himself what's going on. He went for CT abdomen, he went for ultrasound abdomen to rule out appendix or any other possible sources, and he found everything to be normal. That's how he came to me telling that all this is what to do. Okay, so the possible differential diagnosis as a physio, when we look at a pain location like that, could be appendicitis, could be renal stone, could be psoas major trigger point, could be sacroiliac dysfunction, could be cecum, could be hernia. So based on the investigations and the physical examination, okay, I ruled out psoas, sacroiliac, and appendix and renal, hip pathology, hernia. So final was restriction. So treatment, there's a cecum mobilization, which I did. So it has got various ligaments, medial, inferior, and lateral ligament. So that's a cecum where it's okay. When I did the mobilization, it was involvement of medial ligament. So when I did the mobilization, when I tried to palpate, the patient produced the same kind of pain which the patient was the chief complaint. So maybe I mobilized for 2 to 3 minutes in the direction of the towards cephalad, and we did that mobilization. And following mobilization, immediately, maybe I took 5 minutes, his VAS came to 0, and he sat for some time and again became pain-free. After 1 month, again I reassessed, because being in the same hospital, again he was maintaining, VAS was 0, again his functional movement or functional, all this were pain-free. So this other patient, Mrs. X, female patient, 40-year-old. Patient came, pain in the left leg, more over the hip region, and it was more of lateral, anterior, and lateral region. And the person for last 5 years. So that's a pain location. Okay, and it was spreading anterior and also lateral. That was the referral pain which the patient, but the main location was the left iliac region. So gradual in onset, dull aching type of pain, and it was continuous in nature, duration for past 5 years, and it gets aggravated by long time standing, sitting on lower right chair, cross leg sitting, stair climbing, sleeping on the same left side. So when she came to meet me also, when she was sitting, she was not ready to, she was sitting mostly on her right hip. She was not even loading on her left hip. So that was the kind of pain she was having. So it gets relieved by lying straight, and the severity 8 out of 10. It was irritability was severe, and sleep was affected, and not able to sleep on left side due to pain. So it was no sigmoid colon involvement, and I gave the mobilization of the sigmoid colon, which has got some movements horizontally, and and when I went and palpated, again it produced the symptoms and referred pain going to the anterior and thigh, lateral thigh. So after 5 sessions of treatment, which was gone weekly once, the VAS came down to 0. Under functional activities, after 5 sessions, she could sit, stair climbing, and mainly she was not able to sit with equal pressure on her hips. So after the treatment, she could sit comfortably, and patient after 5 sessions, she was fine, and she has already during these 5 years, she has taken all possible investigations involving involving gastrointestinal system, gynecological, ultrasounds, MRIs, lumbar. So most often she has patients which they didn't find anything significant or anything, no red flags, or they could not find anything, and she was just moving around with different physicians and different hospitals, and she got what you say kind of improvement with this. So this is a patient which we started initially when I started. Okay, so Mr. X, 19 years, is a complaint as a chief complaint over left chest for past 2 months, and no history of trauma. And he lost his father. Only significant thing what we found is lost his father 4 months back, and it was gradual in onset, and was 8 out of. And as I told you, he already met cardiologist, took ECG, ruled out echo also, ruled out any cardiac in origin, met orthopedician, taken chest X-ray, again they ruled out anything related to bones or physio. So as I discussed before, can we treat this patient? Yeah. So I got many answers, yes, and also possible source of pain. Yeah. So most of us, we look for could be a rib dysfunction, could be muscles, could be yeah. These are the possibilities. Fine. So just to go further on that patient, on observation, he looked dull and less communicative. And on palpation, left side chest wall was stiff compared to right side chest. And however, if you do the thorax active movement and passive movement assessment, your single or repeated was full, and it was not provoking anything. And what could be the source and how to treat? So there are different ways. Yeah, if you go at the muscle approach, yeah, definitely we can look for the muscle. We can look for the pectorals. We can look for the intercostal muscles. We can look for the breathing assessment. Yeah, we can do that. So, but various ways you can treat. There is not one way. You can do needling. You can do myofascial technique. There are different ways. Okay, which we can definitely treat this patient. So, according to this visceral approach, what they look for is you got the a continuous fascia which starts from the chest and it goes to the arm and it gets connected, and you got various recesses or spaces which is present above the apex of the lung. Okay, okay, and then you got a mediastinal recess which is present medially. Okay, and then you got diaphragmatic recess where there is a space between your lung and the diaphragm. So there is a space. So these are the spaces where when the rib cage doesn't move, when the lung doesn't move sufficiently, it becomes stiff because of the stress, because of the muscle spasm, and they advise some of the techniques through which they release it. Known as manipulation, where they mobilize the superior pleura with that therapist hand position. And then costo-mediastinal recess, there are some approaches where they release is tightened or which is reduced, and they give these releases using the costo-mediastinal techniques. And also you got ligaments, which is pericardial ligaments, where the heart is so known as superior sternopericardial ligament and inferior sternopericardial ligament. So this can be if you are under lots of emotional stress, and these ligaments can be stiff because of sympathetic system that lacks causes lack of movement and can be a possible source of pain. And you can work on these ligaments and you can mobilize these ligaments. So post-treatment immediately, the VAS came down to 5. Most important thing was the patient was not smiling, and by the time he went out of the room, he could see a big smile. And after 3 sessions, the pain, anterior chest pain, became lower. Not only this, definitely, I advised patient to meet a clinical psychologist. Definitely, you need some support, plus some form of aerobic exercises, whatever works for the patient. Then plus clinical psychologist, kind of counseling or something, definitely he needs. Okay. So this is again found one of the article where they have done visceral manipulation on forward patients with chronic neck pain, and they saw whether any change in the forward neck posture. And they found some changes. And how does it work? Mechanism of action. Visceral manipulation is a soft tissue mobilization. The abdominal and thoracic organs are enveloped in connective tissue or the facial membranes. As soon as we manually manipulate this visceral soft tissue, we are affecting changes locally and in surrounding areas because of the facial connections. Receptors has got 100 million neurons in visceral ligaments. That's nothing but your peritoneal folds, which has got the attachments everywhere. And through manual manipulation, we can change the viscosity of the ground substance. And also it lowers the sympathetic, so people feel relaxed. Pacinian corpuscles are also found in peritoneum and can be influenced by manual therapy. So another mechanism by Donald E. Ingber, concept of subnanotransduction, the process by which cells sense mechanical forces and transduce them into changes in the intracellular biochemistry and gene expression. So which they say known as mechanotransduction. So by your mobilization, after mobilization, you can create changes in your intracellular biochemistry. That's what he says. So there are some studies which you can also find. So this is a study which compared conventional physiotherapy in chronic low pain with visceral dysfunction. Not only chronic low back pain, they had some issues, either gastric issues or constipation or some kind of issue with visceral, and they treated conventional physiotherapy, and then other with conventional physiotherapy and placebo visceral, and they found 20 patients and follow up for for 3 weeks, I think. Yeah. So and they found once a week treatment they have given, and they found changes in it. This is the other study where they have done visceral manipulation in normal people, and they found the pressure pain threshold L1 spinal pressure pain threshold to improve. On sigmoid colon they gave, and they found there are changes there. And this is a study which is done on chronic neck pain patients and with functional dyspepsia, and they have done the visceral manipulation of the liver and stomach, and they found, and they did also EMG activity of upper trapezius and also cervical range of motion. And following treatment, they found changes in the amplitude of upper trapezius and also reduction in cervical pain. And after 7 days after treatment with non-specific chronic neck pain with dyspepsia. And this is done in children's. It's a case report where they have done the visceral manipulation in cerebral palsy kids, and they have recorded a colonic motility using radiography. And after a session of visceral manipulation, they found 100% increase. 100% of the participants have got increased bowel movements, and they found it was assisting the kids. So patient, just a small MCQ, patient with history of appendectomy 2 years back, currently complains of back pain. He can be classified as visceral in origin, somatic, viscerostic, visceral. Can I get some response in the chat? Appendectomy, but currently patient came with the complaint of back pain. Some more responses, another 10 seconds. So is it viscera in origin? First answer, do you think it's viscera? If it's viscera, that means patient should have complained only on that upper, not the back pain. So definitely it's not viscera. Is it somatic? Yeah, now currently it is looking like somatic, but you can see the history says 2 years back appendix. So definitely it is not somatic. And then you can see it is the C. It is viscerosomatic because the problem started 2 years back with appendix. Something was done, some surgery was done, but now complaints with the back pain. So it is viscerosomatic. Answer is viscerosomatic. It cannot be somatovisceral because the person, the order or the first initial presentation was started with the visceral, not somatic. So that's why it is a viscerosomatic. And you treat this patient with, the chances are there. Yeah, you do mobilization, you do something, some changes will be there. I'm not telling there won't be changes, but if it is a viscerosomatic, you need to treat the viscera to get a complete resolution of the symptom. Same thing happens if something happens the um, um, gynecological organs and some referred pain happening to the knee pain, to the thigh, and if you treat the knee and the female patient, most often they come knee pain. Okay, if it's a pure somatic or musculoskeletal, yes, whatever we do, patient will get better. But if this is origin is going to be a visceral in origin, then definitely whatever we do, it's going to be inadequate if it's a viscerosomatic in origin. Otherwise, it's somatic. Definitely, whatever we do, already we are definitely addressing the issue, and we can get the patient required recovery. Thanks for the response. So to summarize, so what we have seen, introduction of visceral manipulation, and you can see historically or culturally, people always believe that gut is the source of all the disease. And then what is the role of viscera in movement system? So you want a good movement system, you need muscles, joints, nerves, along with that viscera. So you want to get a good lumbar range of motion, flexion, extension, or you got a problem in your stomach and arm movement. So you will find literature also liver mobilization and having shoulder ranges getting improved. You will find articles on all this. Okay, and the interrelationship between viscerosomatic visa, about the interneurons, about problem in the viscera getting reflected in muscles and bones, and problem muscles and bone can get reflected in the viscera. So your way of assessment, your history taking will give the idea, what could be the possible starting symptom. Accordingly, and as a physio, our musculoskeletal assessment and our management, our exercises remains integral part, except that we just add this component where if it's the source, we treat. If not, that's fine. And that I feel could be value added thing when we assess a patient. Otherwise, most often when patient comes, we tell, yeah, patient tells pain in the back, pain in the side. Yes, we are interested. Same patient, if they tell I have pain and the pain comes in the front, or pain starts in the front, goes back, we usually ignore and we say that's not important. We say, okay, that's not relevant. The reason is simple. It's not there in the syllabus. So we don't look into it. So, but as a anatomy and as a, anatomy is true. So there are interconnections. We can't tell it doesn't exist. Okay. So that's where patient comes with the organs and the muscles and the bones and joints. So if we add some validation, definitely we understand the patient better, and I feel our treatment will be better. So once again, I thank organizers, Indian Society of Physiotherapists for giving the opportunity, and also thank everyone for listening. Any questions? Sir, can't hear you. You're in mute.
I'm sorry. It was a lucid presentation with classical and very interesting case reports. Thank you, Dr. Prem, for this wonderful session. Now the session is open for discussion. I think you can put across in the chat box. There was a question on Snigdha. How do you do the differential diagnosis?
Yeah, I discussed about that right iliac pain. So yeah, we are aware if there is a right iliac pain, it could be a appendix, it could be a renal stone. So it could be a psoas major trigger point, or it could be a hernia. So one thing is that as usual, we take history. Based on the history, we get the idea. Again, mechanical, inflammatory pain. So it's our routine assessment which we take. And for that patient particularly, renal and stone investigations. So it's a combination of your subjective and objective examination. I think that gives the idea about what could be the possible source of pain. And further with palpation and provocation of the similar symptom of the patient, then we are on the structure and we are on possible source of pain when we provoke the same pain.
Yeah, there was a question from Chrysolite. Do we add neural manipulation?
Yeah, that's what Barrel Institutes, that from where I have taken the courses. So you can look for the website. They put everything. Also, all the related articles, you get it there. Just put Barrel Institute in Google. I think you get it.
Just out of curiosity, sir, are there any certified persons in India to conduct courses?
Yeah, the website. No. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Rashmi, sir, how do you go about visceral mobilization?
Yeah, that's what, as I said, it has the assessment, it has the management. Also, it has got extensive palpation. It's purely anatomical and lots of surface anatomy. And it involves hands-on practice and hands-on training. So, hands-on. So, as I said, each organ has got its own movements, has got surface anatomy. So it's anatomical. So you need to get into it to understand the things. Yeah.
With that other question is that is there any upcoming workshops related to
it? Yes, same thing. You can look for the Barrel website where they update. It happens in different countries also, right? It's there. So information.
Dr. Hardik, are there any grading on how much pressure to put with the visceral manipulation as like Maitland grading?
No, there is no grading. It's a soft tissue mobilization. So it's the tissues and accordingly, and it's a very gentle and very soft kind of, and it's very specific because based on the direction of the ligament restriction, the techniques are very gentle, very soft. And as I told, some of the techniques, one session, that's it. And if you are very specific and your results are like immediate and pain disappears. So it's quite specific and it's not a very.
And again, another question from Dr. Rashmi, will visceral manipulation, mobilization reduces shoulder pain?
Yeah, that's what. There could be some component. We can't attribute everything to it. Okay. Posture, right? Immobilization, thing for a long time. So there is some amount of what you say, all your dermatome, myotome overlaps, which happens your C5 and to the liver. So you will get some changes, and you can't tell everything. No, you mobilize your okay, but it will have some value addition, right? You do your normal routine, mobilization or muscle approach, right? Along with it, if you add this value addition, you can see some change happening there. Issue with the liver. Person had a problem, cirrhosis of liver, some serious issue. After that, shoulder problem started. So those kind of history, if you get, and if you treat liver, and you will find a significant change happening in the shoulder.
The question from Dr. Hardik, is it possible to mobilize small structures without mobilizing the entire viscera? Because some structures are deep, is it possible to reach them?
Yeah, that's what. So it involves lots of specific skills, and it involves lots of training and experience. And once it happens, it's quite specific. Yeah.
And a question from and contraindications for these techniques.
Yeah, definitely. Any acute kind of you have fever, you have got right, any kind of acute symptoms, we don't touch the patient, right? It could be right? So definitely it's a contraindication, right? So we don't touch. That becomes a different contraindication, absolute contraindication.
In continuation of Hardik question, he's asking about the role in obese individuals, manipulation because of the
yes, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy compared to a lean person whom you can feel the organs better. Obese patients, it's not going to be easy. It will be easy, that is sure. But you practice more and more, I think, and also during training, you handle different kind of people. Then you get to know how much force to apply, how much to be gentle, and how is.
Question from Arun Paul. Can we impact the cost for a referred pain? I think this
Sorry,
question
repeat
has
again.
to be, yeah. Can we impact the cost for referring? There is some component in his question. I think we'll ask Dr. Arun Paul to post it again. So Arun Paul asked like example cirrhosis. Speaking about the visceral pain, I believe.
That's what. As I said, if there is a history of liver disease, okay, after that patient has got some shoulder problem coming up, so we classify them as viscerosomatic. That is definitely you treat the organ, you can see changes in the shoulder.
Sir, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
How about, sir, in post-surgical scarring leading on to viscerosomatic issues? Is it so commonly being noted, especially after following abdominal surgeries?
Yes, sir. Definitely cause if the person presents with a back pain or a knee pain, but no, he has got a history of abdominal surgery, any upper abdominal surgery or appendicectomy, right? So that as we saw in the fascia connections, it's all connected, and after long for a prolonged time there is scarring. The scarring can put the load or a stretch on the lumbar spine and can cause kind of it's definitely possible. And if we get a history like that, I think definitely we need to look at the anterior side and then see what restrictions. And if you release that, you will find dramatically patient back at all. So because very clearly your history says the timeline, it's called as timeline history, says that something has happened in the abdomen and it is there, it was present for some time. So that means you are allowed. It can pull in any direction. It can cause shoulder restriction on the right. It can cause left shoulder restriction. It can cause back problem. It can cause knee problem, right? So definitely it's all possible. And you get a history like this, I think we look into what is there and know something can be done there. If we do it, I think that gives a justified treatment for the patient.
Are there prevalent visceral fascia involvement in somatic lesions?
That's what, as I said, they classify them as somatic and visceral. So if you see, if it's purely somatic, you treat somatic, it's going to get solved. So you need not go to viscera at all. So there's no question only there. So if it is somatic, purely it's somatic, you treat them, you get the result. So you need not think about viscera at all. And you can
until
see
unless we learn.
Yeah.
Unless we learn visceral evaluation, visceral fascia evaluation.
Yes. And
I think the therapist would be able to discriminate between those.
And also the extensive connections. It's very wonderful kind of world. You see the dissections, and you will understand like how much they are connected, and how much one organ can influence the other, and also the musculoskeletal system. And you can see the very chordator so major. It's like a bed, and above which all these organs are sitting, right? So you got a problem there, and we think everything in the muscle, then definitely we might be wrong. So you look for the possible. Not telling that one only will cause everything, right? It's just that you have an option, and if you can look for it, I think it will be good. So that see whatever cases I have presented, the cases are all right, and not finding solution. Did so many investigations, right? But this kind of seeing the patient, this kind of viewing the patient is not there. So patient suffers. So it's all in the interest of the patient. I think it just gives you the better understanding of the patient.
One final question.
Yes, sir.
So I think during a cadaveric workshop, I could able to notice the closeness of the approximate between quadratus lumborum and the kidney. Have you come across any cases with renal issues with quadratus lumborum involvement?
Maybe post nephrectomy patient long time or the postural kind of they adapt postures, then they present some kind of quadratus lumborum tightness, something like that. Okay, so that patient, some amount of renal mobilization along with the muscular treatment, definitely they get better well.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a wonderful presentation and a wonderful discussion. I thank all the participants for the active participation, and special mention to our resource faculty for the day, and thanking the SIP organizers for making this evening a memorable one. Happy weekend.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the questions. Thank you all.